Our next speaker is Dr. Ibilola Amao. She is the principal consultant at Londec Global Services, and she's representing from Nigeria and the United Kingdom. Her presentation today is entitled Sustainability and Resource Optimization, a Call to Action. Dr. Amao is the principal consultant of Londec Global Services. Ibilola is a first-class graduate in civil and structural engineering from the Queen Mary University, London. She holds a PhD in computer-aided design and drafting from the University of Bradford, with executive management courses taken from Harvard Business School, Manchester Business School, Cornell University, Boston University, Stanford Business School, and IESE Spain. She is an honorary fellow of the Queen Mary University of London, fellow of the Institutes of Directors, Energy Institute, UK, and Nigerian Society of Engineers. She sits on the Energy Institute, IE Week board, and on the panel of judges for the Royal Academy of Engineering, UK, Africa Prize. Ibilola is a co-founder of the Women in Energy Network, a council member of We Connect International. Nigeria provides engineering technology expertise on boards. She is a 2021 We Connect Rise to the Challenge awardee in the engineering sector category, a 2020 C3E International Engineering Women of Distinction awardee, Forbes Rising Star 2019, Vital Voices Fellow, and International Women Entrepreneurial Challenge awardee, and a 2016 Energy Institute champion. She mentors STEM techpreneurs. She was involved in the advocacy that led to the passage of the Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Content Development Act in 2010. Ibilola is committed to the national development and socio-economic transformation, interests and related activities, industry, academia, liaison, girls in STEM, women in engineering. I now invite Dr. Amao to the stage.
Thank you so much to the International Center for Protocol and Diplomacy, and I do acknowledge the very interesting presentations that have been made prior to mine. I'll just share my screen and go into my own presentation, which is about sustainability and resource optimization, a call to action. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'll be speaking from the perspective of an engineer who is in the energy sector and in entrepreneurship, and trying to look at the north-south divide and looking at sustainability as win-win and a call to action in the area of collaboration, cooperation, and coordination of resources, leveraging technology, engineering technology, science, technology, engineering, and maths, and bridging the gap between developing nations, emerging economies, and developed nations. So I wouldn't bore you with my outline. I'll go straight to the presentation. And I'm going to be looking at sustainability from the perspective of a STEM talent and an engineer in entrepreneurship. And basically, I found it very interesting to find out that even though the sustainability is defined as the ability to be maintained at a certain rate or level, or meeting our own needs without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs, an avoidance of the depletion of natural resources, that includes mineral resources as well, and human resources, in order to maintain an ecological balance. And in 1987, the ecological definition of sustainability in the Broadland Report is that sustainable development describes sustainable development as one that satisfies the needs of the present without adversely affecting the conditions for future generations. I was very pleased to listen to the earlier speaker on AI, and he kind of looked at how technology could be used to drive sustainability. And there are four major buckets of sustainability: human sustainability, which looks at generational sustainability; economic sustainability; environmental sustainability, which is geographical and ecological balance; and social and sociocultural sustainability. And basically, sustainability is about looking across from the individual to the family unit, to the community, to the local environment, to the national environment, the regional environment, and the global environment. So it starts from the core of an individual having a duty and responsibility to generations unborn, and connecting their individual SDG priorities to their regional, local, national, and global SDG priorities. And there are 17 of these priorities. And I normally will ask people in terms of how is your personal sustainable development goal aligned with your corporate sustainable development goal or your national sustainable development goal priorities. And it's basically put in the three buckets of the environment, society, and economy. And today we talk more about ESG compliance, which is the environment, social, and governance issues. But these three buckets actually are very, very key. And you can see that the ones that have the three colors are sustainability development goals 2, 3, 8, 11, and 17. And this brings us back to the fact that cooperation, collaboration, and coordination of resources in an ethical manner is quite key and fundamental to sustainability. And we need to begin to look at how do we have a handshake across geographies, time zones, resource-centered locations, across generations, across technological know-how in the area of sharing resources from the energy, power, infrastructure, mining, manufacturing, oil and gas sectors. How do we bridge the gap and have a handshake in terms of collaboration, cooperation, and coordination of resources to minimize the key sustainable development goals gaps? And the first one is the importance of partnership for the goals. And that's where cooperation, collaboration, and coordination comes in. And then sustainable cities and communities. We need health, good health, well-being in sustainable cities and economies. So education, health, and peace and security is so fundamental. And then we can begin to look at poverty, zero hunger, and quality education. And then if we look at the promoting ESGs and sustainability, we're looking at environment, social, and governance compliance. Under environment, we're looking at climate change strategies, biodiversity, water efficiency, energy efficiency, which is really, really important, especially with the Ukraine-Russia war going on at the moment. Energy is a major issue in the Western world. Carbon intensity, environmental management systems. And in terms of social, we're looking at equal opportunities from gender, cultural diversity, different dimensions of equal opportunities, freedom of association, health and safety, human rights, safety, security, customer and product responsibility, and child labor. And from the governance perspective, business ethics, governance ethics, compliance, board independence, executive compensation, shareholder democracy, and ethical leadership. And then we can look at multi-stakeholder collaboration to achieve the sustainable development goals. And you have groups like the USAID, UNDP, GIZ, the World Bank, UNICEF, Europe Aid, UK Aid, Asian development banks, African development banks, running different initiatives, projects, and activities. But these have to be in collaboration, cooperation, and coordinated manner. And then you have also the other activities, the World Economic Forum, and different groups who are actually pushing certain agendas around sustainable development goals. But above all, we need to look at what kind of resources do we have that needs to be optimized from one generation to another generation to ensure sustainability? And I've decided to look at West Africa because I originate from West Africa. And you can see the mineral resources in the various West African countries, their primary resources. Africa possesses 99% of the world's chrome, 85% platinum, 70% tantalite, 68% cobalt, and 54% of its gold. And then key mineral and natural resources to drive the Industry 5.0, digital transformation, AI, augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, extended reality, various technologies are fundamentally mineral resources that exist in Africa. And yet Africa is an energy poor economy where poverty is plaguing the citizens, and there's such imbalance and insecurity in the communities where these resources exist, because the mineral and natural resources are not processed in those communities. The citizens in the communities are not educationally empowered to be able to harness their mineral and natural resources and export finished products. Process technology is lacking in such environments, so they're exporting raw materials and importing finished products to their foreign direct investment deficit and income deficit. So poverty and jobs are lacking, and we're beginning to see migration across poor nations into new nations, and so many issues that require diplomacy. So if we're going to solve the problem of diplomacy, we need to solve the problem of energy ethics, energy equality, and we're supposed to look at the mineral and natural resources optimization in the locations and in the communities where these mineral and natural resources exist. So, I mean, this is just giving you some ideas of the 10 top rich African nations where copper, cobalt, zinc, tin, coltan, uranium, tantalite, petroleum, graphite, these are key. Diamond, gold, bauxite, tanzanite, all these key resources are key to Industry 5.0, key to digital transformation, key to energy transition, and the environment, climate change, and the issues that plague the nations. So what do we need? Sustainability and leadership that is so key. We need the ethical and empowered leaders who have a worldview, have a global network, understanding of the boundaries in their primary location, understanding the secondary and tertiary boundaries within which they need to cooperate, collaborate, and coordinate their resources. They need to have influence. They must be well respected in their areas of core competence and have a track record. They must be credible, authentic leaders who can drive sustainable and sustainability programs and initiatives. They must be comfortable with the complexities of the issues that plague their local resources and their local communities vis-a-vis the value they're generating from their mineral and natural resources. And we need leaders who are self-led, ethical, disciplined, focused, and experienced and committed to value creation. And how does this come about? But this comes from the 5 E's of socioeconomic development, which involves proper education, enlightenment, empowerment, engagement, and entrepreneurship. We need to go through this value chain of the 5 E's to ensure that the quality of leaders and the quality of human capital we have in the resource-rich locations are ethical and responsible enough, and through meritocratic systems can optimize these resources to create jobs and wealth in these local areas. So there's a responsible and respectful cross-collaboration across geographies and time zones for sustainability. And how do we harmonize SDGs, ESGs, and CSR? We have multinational companies exploring and exploiting mineral and natural resources in communities where these resources exist. Well, for sustainability, we need to look at the 3 buckets of sustainable development goals: environment, social, and governance compliance, as well as corporate social responsibility. Under the Sustainable Development Goals perspective, we need to look at the 247 indicators and the 17 goals. And in terms of corporate social responsibility, we need to consider people, profit, and planet. And in terms of environment, social, and governance issues and compliance, the environment, social, and governance areas must be looked at. And in so looking at these 3 buckets, not independently, but synergistically, we are beginning to cooperate in the area of performance metrics measurement, commitments to sharing resources in an ethical manner, and specific focus areas that would move the economics and the governance and the social activities forward. So how do we look at social impact and sustainability alongside community development? Responsible leadership needs to engage investors as well as multinationals and national companies to ensure that they're deploying at the barest minimum basic strategies for sustainability through social impact initiatives. And they must try to push them down towards the maturity continuum in the corporate social responsibility area, such that they move from basic to strategic CSR and social impact initiatives to competitive CSR and social impact initiatives and transformational CSR and social impact initiatives. So rather than just running basic CSR and social impact initiatives, such as limited awareness of SDGs, may align with CSR or SDGs, may sponsor internal campaigns, annual events, initiatives without ROI. We need to be looking at transformational deployment such that new business is developed through SDG focused problems, issues and challenges. SDG drive engagements that relate to new products, services and markets. And impressive SDGs are focused on ROI such that their sustainability and the continuum matures. So I'd just like us to look at some important considerations. The first is from Kofi Annan. These are some quotations. It says, business, labor, and civil society organizations have skills and resources that are vital in helping to build a more robust global economy. So sustainability and the diplomacy around sustainability is key when we begin to look at the world as a global village, where we begin to engage and ensure that we have the right skills and resources deployed to create jobs and wealth across geographies and time zones. Dan Shellman says, sustainable development requires human ingenuity. People are the most important resources. So from the 5 E's of socioeconomic development, education, enlightenment, empowerment, engagement, and entrepreneurship, we need to invest and invest and invest in human capital development initiatives. And the right kind of education, enlightenment, and empowerment must be tied to the kind of resources that are locally available in these locations. And then the smallest act of kindness is worth more than the grandest intention. That's an Oscar Wilde quote, because we really need to look ourselves across the global north and the global south as partners. Because if we are not partnered to optimize the resources we have in one part of the world, we will be deficient in optimizing the other kind of resources and the technological advancements we have in the other part of the world. And finally, the golden way is to be friends with the world and to regard the whole human family as one. So cooperation, collaboration, and coordination is critical. So from local to national to regional to international, global, there needs to be diplomacy across the conversations we're having in the national governments, across multinational and national companies, as well as individual NGOs and IOCs. So we need to look at individual competencies, organizational competencies, systems and institutional development, and network development. And I'd like to say that sustainability is hinged on cooperation, collaboration, and coordination of global resources in an ethical manner. And on this note, I'd just like to conclude by looking at the G7, G8, and G20 countries coming together and looking at the BRIC countries as well, and addressing the North-South divide is fundamental to sustainability. So going forward, my call to action is that we promote and engage meritocratic leadership with the 5 E's of socioeconomic development. We address geopolitical imbalances. We look at energy security, efficiency, and climate control. We have mutual respect in engaging emerging economies across the North-South divide. We promote regional development where the resources exist and process technology is employed. We improve multilateral trading systems and optimize the use of resources, nature, and the environment. And I'd just like to close by saying that diplomacy is the profession, activity, or skill of managing international relations and is very key to sustainability. Thank you so much, and thanks for your attention.
Patricia, you need to come in here.
Yeah, I have to come in, yes. Oh my God, thank you, Dr. Amao. It's always a pleasure to have you on the stage, you know, sharing everything on energy. I've worked with Dr. Amao since 2010, so I can attest to a lot of expertise, knowledge she's bringing into play. And we appreciate the time you spent with us, really. And I hope that participants are enjoying this and they also appreciate this. So yeah, you've mentioned so many things. In fact, optimization is very key. When we put this topic at first, a lot of people were like, well, how would that be relevant? But, you've just proven to us that, this is a key area which we need to start thinking in the way we see the SDGs and the way we apply them. First things first, I thought I should relate on what you've said concerning our understanding of our personal SDGs and the corporate SDGs. I never thought I should think about sustainable development goals from an individual side of view in terms of my personal goals and things like that. And that just resonates before we start thinking about how we look at countries and all of that, indexes and in that box of looking at that level of analysis. But it's just interesting that we have to start thinking about SDGs from an individual side, which I find very interesting. And in terms of creating value and enhancing performance of a truth, value creation had to do with network, boundaries, influence, complexity, self-leadership, which is so very relevant if we really want to optimize from where we are to looking at solutions of how we can resolve this. And you said something very relevant in terms of CSR. I'm a big push of CSR, especially when it comes to Africa. We have a lot of, you mentioned, I saw your analysis in terms of the multi-stakeholders collaboration, and I'm amazed at how many organizations and, networks are coming together when it comes to the SDGs, but it just looks like I wouldn't use the word neglect, but I think that we should resonate in terms of the CSR and how that affects the people in terms of analyzing it for people, profit, and planet. CSR, I think, is very key. I think it's something that would drive our optimization, really hitting sustainable goals from our communities. And what you shared with us in terms of Africa, which is really important today, is very, very key. And I just think it's a brilliant way you have demonstrated that. I'm also amazed you mentioned, we have over 200 indicators when it comes to the SDGs. And I just think that's very important because we don't want to just hold it to, we know we have 17 goals, but it's really good to start appraising them and seeing that you can actually have more than hundreds and hundreds of indicators. That's quite very remarkable. I think it's something that we should take out of this conference. And in terms of export flow, that's just so significant, which we cannot ignore. And energy is such a huge area when it comes to exports. See what's going on today, Russia, Ukraine, there's whole lots of issues happening because of all that export analysis. And in fact, in Africa, this is also a shortage on our sides because, it's not just, these are things that needs to be really looked at when it comes to global resources. And I also thought that I should mention that in terms of human capital optimization, education is so key. And I'm happy that you were able to analyze that and to see that, as we're looking at the SDGs and when organizations or collaborations are really looking at areas they could focus on, it just gives me a second thought on where we should be prioritizing. And if we have an opportunity, because not everyone will be able to achieve 17 goals at a time as a collab, as an organization, it just gives us the idea that you have to be really key and look carefully before you choose which goals you should be taking on board, whether from a personal perspective or from a corporate perspective. And on this note, I will say a really great, well done job here. And I'll keep this presentation very close to my heart because it's really elaborate and quite a lot to talk about. So thank you so much, Dr. Amao, for sharing these moments with us. I'm not sure whether there are any questions, but I will say that if there are questions, we could just put them on the chat, but let me just quickly
There is actually, Patricia, there's some question. There's a question by Donatus again. It says, what role does corporate social responsibility play in the development and promoting coexistence in underdeveloping countries?
Oh, okay. I think, Doctor, you should answer that, but I have so many answers to give you, but let's hear from Dr. Amao.
I think from the global competitiveness perspective, any investor in any community where there are mineral or natural resources will have to look at the quality of education, enlightenment, empowerment, engagement, and entrepreneurship, because your people drive the business. Your supply chain would come from the entrepreneurs in the environment. And the community development is key for safety and security in your asset. So it's a no-brainer. So, I mean, corporate social responsibility 10 years ago and earlier used to be like ticking a box to fulfill all righteousness for investors in resource-rich economies. But today, thanks to SDGs and by 2030 and ESG compliance to access greener funds and cheaper funds, people are beginning to be more strategic about their corporate social responsibility, their ESG compliance, and their SDGs are aligning. And we're beginning to see that human performance is enhanced when the personal human capital asset or talents, Sustainable Development Goal priorities are aligned with the corporates and the community, the nation, based on their mineral and natural resources and how they would like to position themselves globally and regionally to be able to create wealth for their nation. So it's no longer, let's tick a box, it's good to have, it's nice to have. You really have to be strategic, and you really need to do these strategy sessions to find out, well, where do you want to play? Where is your strength? Where do you see your business in the next 5 to 10 years? And how can you leverage your CSR and social impact initiatives to create the kind of human resources you want and optimize the mineral and natural resources that your business is tied to? Thanks.